Hello, and this is pre-recorded, so happy Wednesday, everybody. Today we have the incredible Allison Canales coming to you, and I want to, before I even get into any of this, I don't even know what day we are on of this. I want to say thank you so much for being here, for watching, for tuning in, for all your comments and DMs. Like I've been getting quite a few of those, so I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And the team and I are so excited that you're journeying on this with us. And we have a few more days to go until we reveal the full docu-series, which will come live to you in your inbox. If you have not registered for this, I highly suggest you register, because that's how you'll get the replay for every recording that we have so far and the actual docu-series. It's not going to be aired on social media until much later. That said, welcome Allison to the launch series, the interviews, and I'm so excited to have you here. And for those of you who don't know, Allison is an incredible heart-led, soul-led, God-led marketing and messaging mentor. I look at her as a content strategist and this content ninja that's like light years ahead of me, but like our souls are still like so the same. I met her about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we were working with a whole other mutual client, and I fell in love with her soul and her essence and just who she was. And I could see in her at that point in time, I was like, you know what, you're meant to do so much more. And here she is today. And I was like, I want her on my team at some point when the team comes together. And we began our journey together at the beginning of last year while I was journeying through the thick of things. And the new team, or the team that as it stands now, was still coming together. At that point last year, it was still Allison, June, and myself. It was in the very early stages. There was no there were offers, there were things, but all of it was still up in the air. Like there was nothing set in stone per se. And we took all of 2023 just to focus and cultivate leadership. And one of Allison's core principles is nourished leadership. And you can see why I would have wanted her by my side here at ElixSeer. And that's how I feel about you. And that's my introduction for you. But Allison, share with our, I guess, viewers, listeners, wherever you're tuning in from, who are you? What's your journey? Before even arriving to content creation, like how did you find your way back to your roots?
Wow, what a beautiful introduction. Yeah, just noticing my heart feeling just so appreciative of our weaving journeys and of you, Tanya, and just also appreciation for, the space to share my voice and be on your team. I'm just going to take like a breath as I feel and where to start, because I feel like it's always such a big thing when we're like connecting with sharing our story. Yeah, so I feel like like you said, come back to my roots with marketing. And I feel like when I actually feel into like how I got started in this work, it was a bit untraditional. And I think in content specifically, I was 11 years old, and I'm part of that like Gen Z millennial cusp era when YouTubers and influencers were really on the rise. And I remember just being captivated by particularly like makeup gurus and fashion gurus on YouTube, and like wanting to be like them, and just thought it was so cool that they got to go on all these trips and were creative and like sharing what they loved. So I started at 11 years old. My younger sister and I I think we started on another platform. It was something not YouTube, but as like a mini trial version, like an app that's not even like around anymore.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then I got into making YouTube videos. My dad gave me like a Canon camera, and I like asked for studio lights for my birthday. And I think from 13 to 15 made like makeup and fashion videos, and was able to get like actually some good traction on that platform, and got signed with like again, I don't think the company is around again, but got paid a little bit for making YouTube videos. And it wasn't like a ton, but it still was like my first, I think, taste of that freedom of,
Yeah.
oh, I can get paid to be creative and do something that I love. And Also, I'm so grateful for that time because it really made my like love of content creation, especially video, like coming at it from different angles and planning out, okay, what am I going to share this month? Which is like funny when I look back at, oh, those seeds were planted so deeply for what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And I think also what's important to share in that story is then I stopped YouTube. I had a interesting childhood, or I guess adolescence, and I moved to the jungle to live with my uncle, who's an ayahuasca shaman. So I stopped making makeup and fashion videos and started doing more videos on like the things that I was learning
Yeah.
from kind of my lineage and my ancestors about self-love. I was at 15, I was on YouTube trying to tell the women about their periods and their menstrual
Oh
cycle.
my gosh, I love this.
Yeah, it was great. And yeah, I knew again I wanted to do something eventually with my career that allowed me that freedom. I went to school for Ayurvedic medicine. That was my first business, helping women with their hormones and burnout prevention, which led me into like womb healing. A lot was taught for me by like elders that I lived with in the jungle. And then also like specifically womb trauma and how that connects to hormones. And then the shift into feminine leadership. And again, this is a very condensed version, but I took a 2-year break.
Yeah.
And when I was like, okay, what am I desiring to do? That's when you and I met. We were working on a mutual clients team, and I was more in like the back end of social media management and yeah, create content strategy, and which led me to what I'm doing now. And this I think a lot of I've been clarifying, yeah, this I think how I describe myself is I weave a lot of like my background as I come from a lineage of like healers and medicine women, this very holistic embodied approach to like content creation, marketing, leadership, a lot of like earth-based wisdom and like how to approach that with a lot of people, especially in the coaching world, that have these really beautiful transmissions. And it feels like a paradox of how do you market things meant not to be, do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's where my genius lies, is like really supporting people with these like intangible offers and this like really sacred offers I think in a very like whole, like I really bring this, we're going to hold the sacred and we're
Yeah.
also going to do it in a refined way so it makes sense. And I see now amongst my journey of having that medicine walk so young, and that's such a big part of my life, but then also being a lot of my geniuses within marketing and yeah, content, like weaving those both together. And that's kind of me.
I love that. I love that so much. Honestly, I feel like when I look at you and I'm almost picturing this, like you come in with this beautiful, like you blend the esoteric, if you will,
Mm,
and you ground it in the here and
mhm,
now. And I think that's so important, especially for the industry that we are in. We work with a multitude of industries. I know a lot of us have worked here with various brands, not just the online brands, but other e-commerce, product-based, whatever. I started out working with brick and mortar product-based brands, but it's that thread, right? It's what's in you. It's always going to come out in the way that you work and coach people and guide people. So for you, I feel like it's such a beautiful thread, like weaving your lineage, weaving your ancestors'
mm,
wisdom and stuff that you've walked through. Because a lot, like you're so embodied in it. You don't have to tout it online. You can
mm,
sense it when you go to your feed. You can sense it when you're writing. You can sense it in the way that you're showing up. So I just want to highlight that first and reflect that back. It is so beautiful to see because I've seen the flip side of people take like a course or they do a mastermind or certification a la online or Google, and then it's, oh, I'm this medicine shaman. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you
mhm,
just took a dang 8-month course. That doesn't mean you're embodied in it. Embodied is the walk of a lifetime, and it doesn't end. It's
mhm,
ongoing. The initiations are always ongoing. I liken that to a walk in your faith. Like it's the same thing. Like you're going to have moments where you have trials, and then you're going to have moments where you have celebrations, and it's who are you being in that ebb? And I just find you so grounded, and I can see why we came together. I don't know if you ever got into the show. It was on Amazon. It was a show called You, not You, sorry. It had Hilary Duff, and then it had some other Younger. There we go. I'm like, why am I thinking of You? That's the other side. I like that. I like those shows too, as chaotic as they are. But Younger, it reminds me, like, I almost feel like we're like that dynamic of Younger
Mhm.
working in a set industry, but it's like the innovation's what's there. Age doesn't matter, generation doesn't matter. I think it's the souls of everyone on this team that just comes together with their unique blend of futuristic meets like ancient wisdom put together, and we ground it in present day.
Yeah, I
So
think that's really special about this team in particular, and I feel like Tanya's probably going to talk a lot about this in this series, but I know for myself, I like stopped working as a social media manager or within a lot of agency models, particularly because of the way that agencies were like run, or I don't know, the synergy a lot in the teams, and also particularly like with clients. And I feel like that's what's really special about what we have with this dynamic, is that there is obviously an authority and a leader to an extent, and it's also very circular, and there is a lot of synergy, and there's also such a deep appreciation for each team member's genius. And I really feel like that comes alive when we are supporting individual clients.
yeah,
It's not just like the Tanya show, it's not just the June show, it's not just the Allison show. It's like I think a word that comes to mind is there's a deep collaboration that
yeah,
comes through. And also like that we work with clients that desire that collaboration. And I think that is the difference of the women and clients that we work with, is like they're real trailblazers, not
yeah,
just in like what they're doing, but the way that they want to collaborate. And I feel like that's something me and you have talked about a lot,
yeah,
like brands or creative concepts or marketing, is like that collaboration piece needs to be like so clean and clear. And it's always those brands that like move mountains and work in, quote unquote, that quantum leap, right? It's, and because I feel like it's like we're playing into the energetics of the era that we're moving into, is yeah, this collaboration where there's not this hierarchy, but this really where can we really get behind and be like a hive and community space where the
yeah.
genius of each person gets to come alive to help the client or whatever with their vision or whatever project we're working on.
100%. And it's so funny. I've only had this shift over the last year, truthfully. And I mean, I've experienced the shift toward me and toward the agency like over the last year. And it's almost like I had that moment where I had to stick my spear in the sand, if you will. And be like, I'm done. I was so done. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but the wisdom that I took from all of my past experiences, from the crumbling of the old brand, from everything that I walked through. And I always, and this is just how I've always been, even as a kid, even in corporate, even growing up. I always was like, you can have your own light, you can have your own stage, you can have your own gifts and shine boldly. And it does not take anything from anyone else. Everyone can do that. And imagine if everyone just stood in that, how bright the light would be. One person shining doesn't take away from someone else, doesn't make someone else less than or whatever. But I feel like the dialogue that I've seen in the online, especially in the online space, I haven't noticed this in brick and mortar as much, is one where I don't know, like the people, and I would say not, I've not noticed this with male business owners. In fact, they've been my easiest clients. Not even going to lie about that. They're super chilled. I'm not saying that there aren't bad apples everywhere, but I've noticed this amongst female business owners, and I'm like, keep your high school shit out of business. It don't belong in business. Business is business. Keep the politics out, keep the little girl drama out. There are cool kid tables, and we've known this. We see this in the industry. I see it all the time, but it's not a competition. You cannot be touting hashtag women empowerment, women supporting women, or we're all leaders and new paradigm leadership, and these are some of the hashtags that go on, God-led or soul-centered or heart-centered or whatever, but then you behind the scenes, it's not congruent. That
Mm,
leadership is not congruent, but then you're wondering why your sales aren't flowing. You're wondering why your clients are leaving, or you're wondering like why things are happening. It's because energetically, spiritually, in faith, you're not being who you're meant to be and who you know you can be. You're paying
mhm.
attention to the world's agendas or whatever, the conditioning. And like my old brand crumbled because it was not built on God's foundation. It was built on old agendas. It was built on, and I felt so insecure with my old brand too. It was mirrored in the clients that I was attracting. It
Mm,
was mirrored in the fact that my structures were so weak.
mm,
Even with content, I was like, I would do this dance, like share and then go hide. And now I'm like, I just don't care.
mhm.
Now I share. I'm way more open now and more refined, but I don't have that, what will they think about me? Or oh, which agency owners could. In fact, our entire team actually is made up mostly of people that could quite literally do exactly what I do. You're a marketing messaging content mentor. I do that too. Like we're both creative. Like our whole team has co-creative directors, writers, strategists, agency owners, which if I zoom out and I look at it from the old lens, they're all my competition, but we don't feel that on this team because it's like together we all win.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's such an important piece because I know in my own experience, sometimes even being on teams where, and I understand this to an extent, sometimes you want a VA or social media manager that only is social media manager,
Yeah.
VA, etc. Like, I do understand that to an extent, but I think it's really important to be clear on the why behind it because
Yeah.
I definitely feel like there's been particular clients, teams that I've been on when I started, when I had my coaching business going well, like there being like a mistrust
Mhm, mhm.
or sometimes people wanting you to be exclusive to
To
them,
them. Yep.
but not paying you like a full-time salary. And
Exactly.
or finding it threatening or not finding that you're gonna bring your all onto the team still. And this is such an old paradigm way of thinking and also trusting people. And to an extent, there can be situations with VAs and social media managers where of course that happens. But I always like feel like in my experience of this, like it's a big red flag when I've worked with clients and they a core value of mine in any situation is intimacy. So if there was ever that fear, bring it to the space so we can talk about it. And I usually find it's a reflection of them feeling afraid of someone's creative power. Because I feel like to the extent of, especially in the industry, the way that it's seen is like a lot of the people that are doing behind the scenes work is, yeah, they're crucial to your business to an extent. And when you and but there needs to be this important of not seeing them then as less than. And some
Yep.
when you meet any service providers that really know their value, it is, I think sometimes for a lot of coaches or leaders or business owners, that's when they can, the insecurity of their own power can really be like upfront in their face of someone that's no, I'm these are my prices. I know
Yep.
what my value is. I'm not like I'm bougie and I know it and I'm good and I know it. And
Yeah.
I feel like that the beautiful thing is, especially watching on being in relationship with you as that the old agency crumbled and we've really rebirthed it, is this, like you said, attracting people that like want to work with us because we know our genius and we own like the value that we bring rather than work with people that like, oh, we need to dim our light.
Yeah. No, we're not dimming. No.
No, I think that's the great thing is I know for myself, like when I take on any kind of consulting or maybe one do for your project, it's the relationships has to be so clear with that collaboration piece and knowing it's you want to work with me, not from a because it's budget or whatever. It's like because you're willing to expand in this way, the same way that you would pay for like a 5,000 or
Yep.
$50,000 mastermind or whatever. And it doesn't even matter the price, but it's like looking at it from such a different lens. And I maybe something I think me and you talk about a lot is especially people that are in that multi-six, shooting for 7, 8 figure mark. Investing in, I think coaching is always important and mentorship is always important, but I also feel like putting money back into the business we talked about this, I think it was on Threads or voice notes, like creative concepts, like creating marketing campaigns that are beyond just pretty graphics, but experiences for people. And you're not going to get that on underground
budget.
Yeah, like you can try or do it yourself, but there's a quality and refinement in people that can really bring that aliveness. Those are the people that are going to move mountains and be innovators in the next couple of years. Like they will be the icons of the industry because they're innovating what's being done, and they're really tapping into this embodied frequency of marketing, which is people want experiences. It doesn't need to just be this very, hey, here's the same canvas, and there's nothing wrong with
boring.
it doesn't need to be the same canvas slide again and again. Like, where can you bring innovation and not that there's anything wrong with VAs at all, but I think sometimes it's like also understanding with the people you're hiring. A VA's job is not to be the creative director, the graphic designer, all that stuff. It's like there's particular jobs for particular reasons, and like if you're wanting someone to create that high quality piece of art, really, there's a sacred exchange for that creative gift. And I think that's what me and you talk a lot about is like, people are bored. People want more.
It's literally, it's the best way that I can sum that up is and I'm going to always bring this back to the body. If I have a problem with my health, or if I know that I'm experiencing some sort of, I don't know, heart, whatever, okay, name your ailment, I am not going to go to a coach who's teaching about their embodied experience on health or how their health journey was. I'll bring this back for PCOS. I have PCOS. I manage it. I've been actively managing it for the last 12 years since I found out. But just because I have experienced it, managed it naturally, I don't want to say reversed it, but I would like to say that I don't subscribe to that label as much. Yes, it's a symptom, syndrome, whatever you call it, but I'm like, your mindset, your lifestyle, everything, it's multifactorial how you take care of it. But still, I am not going to go and coach someone on how to manage their PCOS just because I curbed mine. That's not my zone of genius. I will refer them to my PCM practitioner. I'll refer them to my naturopath. I'll refer them to my massage therapist, to my holistic team that I've been leaning on for the last decade. You're not going to go, if you have a marketing problem, you're not going to go and ask the receptionist at your office or the executive assistant to come help you with marketing. Or if you want someone to operate a professional drone and a camera and you want that cinematic effect, you're not going to go ask your family member to pick it up. Hey, can you try to fidget with this and let's do this ourselves? You could, and there's nothing wrong with that. There is a place and time to do things like that, especially if you're early on starting out, or if you have dispensable income or a budget set aside, then you'll find someone that fits it and whatever. What I found happening was, and I remember when I walked away from a client last year, or when I got knocked to my senses sitting on the floor of that washroom. And I remember messaging you and June, and I'm like, oh my God, why are people touting spirituality, but there's no God-led business? It's so contradictory. And it all is your service provider team, your creative team. I don't even care, your VA or your team of VAs. They're not peons, okay? Every human being has dignity, from the bellboy to the chimney sweeper to the garbage collector to the freaking oil tycoon. And guess what? At the end of the day, when it's our time to take our last breath and go up to God, we're all buried back into the same earth. We literally turn into dust and bones and whatever. Okay, no one's turning into fancy, you know what I mean? So we're all, at the heart of it, we're all human. So can you treat your people with kindness? It doesn't matter who they are. I just had to throw that piece in there because something you said reflected that back. And there are specialists for a reason. Even if you go to corporate and you look at a marketing team, it is not one person executing the entire marketing thing. There is, I don't want to say a hierarchy, but there is a beautiful hive mind that takes place. You have the graphic team, you have the costume development team, you have the ideation team, you have the marketing managers and operations managers that bring it all together. They manage timelines and projects and strategies. You have the visual team. There are so many. You have a copywriting team. And do you know how much each of these people are paid on salary a year to just stay exclusive to the company or corporation? A minimum of $60,000, a minimum. And that's like baseline, low baseline.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want a full marketing team, which is what I've seen a lot of coaches and mentors expect you to literally be a human Swiss Army knife, that's going to cost you $180,000 or $200,000 a year just in marketing budget. At minimum, you need to be able to allot $60,000 for your marketing budget.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't move forward without marketing and creative.
Mm-hmm.
Jobs
Mm-hmm.
that you see, the jobs that you see posted, it's all marketing, it's all copywriting, it's all selling yourself or your company or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What we are doing right now, Allison, and this is to anyone listening, digital marketing and creative has been forecasted and by Forbes. I'm not pulling this out of my ass. Forbes has projected this to be a $5 billion industry in the next 5 years. And the way we are going, I don't care who you are. If you're just starting out in business, you are born and you are starting it in 2024. You are in this decade, in this era. Social media, tech, marketing, innovation, it has to be an eat, sleep, breathe part of your business. You can't do it without.
Mm-hmm.
So you need creative teams. I don't care if it's not ours, but you need a creative team and you need to be able to walk power in power.
Mm-hmm.
We're not here to save you. Could we help you leverage income, revenue, all those things? Yes. But that only works when you as the leader show up, you're selling, you're congruent in your message, you know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to end my rant there.
No, it was so
It wasn't
great.
even a rant, but I'm like, I just have to say it
It
because
was gospel. I think it was so good. And I think you said so many important pieces to this is like how much of your business is creative and is marketing, like a good percentage of it. And I love what you said about like that Swiss Army knife around, like
yeah,
it's one person. And if you want someone to do that, I think I've talked about, I have so many friends behind so many scenes of businesses. And it's, if you want exclusivity, you need to pay them to be exclusive and understand that it's not like a do for you service provider job isn't below a coaching or mentorship job. And there's a lot of genius and creativity that goes into marketing campaigns, especially the ones that I think me and you are particularly talking about. That, like, the word that comes to mind is that like experiential,
yeah,
giving people, like
it's the
dropping
whole
people into a
experience.
moment rather than just this like kind of three-dimensional, this is the way that I'm doing it, et cetera, et cetera. It's no, we're creating something that, yeah, truly feels authentic. Because I think that there can be a lot of regurgitation of, in like siphoning of other people's essences and brands. And when you bring in collaborators and, like you said, like a hive mind, there's like a devotion of, okay, what truly is this vision, and
Yeah,
where can we create connections, and how can we support there to be this high level experience. And I think the important aspect is, yeah, when you're at the beginning stages, work within your budget, do it yourself, get creative. And when you're at that six, seven, 8-figure mark, it's no different than when you're like thinking of joining that $100,000 mastermind or paying $25,000 in full for that one-on-one coach you've been eyeing up for years. It's no different.
thank you.
And there's actually more of a payoff to some degree because you're getting the hands-on help that's going to create the spaciousness for you to have these creative concepts and elevate your brand actually to the next level at a high level execution where you're in a league of your own, where you are truly creating something that is beyond what the industry is doing in this small little box, but you're having a team that's dedicated to, it's not even about standing out, it's about like being in a like 1 percentile of let's do something revolutionary. Let's like not even let's close our blinders about whatever in like people in the industry are doing, and where can we, and that's what you get when you have a creative team behind you, is there is such a high level of execution that is unparalleled to anything that, and I think that's the difference, is I think there is a space for mentorship, and I do feel like
I
obviously with
believe in mentorship. I
the
do.
mentorship is
Yeah.
important, but there needs to be a balance of also putting the money back into team and putting the money back into resources so there can actually be an amplification of the beautiful foundations that you've got to your first 6 figures, multi 6 figures. But when you're scaling to actually bring the brand up to this, yeah, this high this refinement and the actual people that are going to help you execute that.
100%. And here's a fun fact, and I haven't talked about this a lot, but so I have hired mentors. I've been there, done that, all the things. Like, oh my God, when I look back, I'm like, if I could change one thing in 2020, it would have been to not fall bait. I baited myself and I took the bait. No one
Mhm.
held a gun to my head to invest. But I didn't believe in myself. I knew what I was capable of, but at the same time, there was so much lacking. And I was so far from my faith, even at that point. I had faith, but it was so lukewarm. And I've alluded to this almost in every live, every single day. Like, I can't help but talk about it. There was such a sense of not enoughness. And
Mhm.
when it comes to expressing myself, or, oh, I don't feel good enough to share what I'm creating. I need to be like X, Y, and Z. And so then I would go hire X, Y, and Z. Not saying I didn't learn things, I did, but it's take back the reins of your own God given power and gifts and stop outsourcing it. I wish I did not do that to the extent that I did. And I wish I had actually invested in team a lot more, a lot earlier. And the thing is, I hired my first team that I thought was going to be my team. And it was great for what, like, I love them to pieces and were great. It was great for where I was at. But very quickly, as I continued to see, I guess, the output of the quality of work, and I'm like, my brain was like, I see this as a movie. This is like my film school movie director, creative writing brain coming into play. And I'm like, I would have created it this way. Tell a story with your visuals. Tell a story with the textures that you're using, the filters, the music. Like, I don't know. It's maybe I'm weird, but I listen to the even when I'm listening to a song, if I'm like fusing the audio, I'm like, okay, no, that bass is way off. It actually doesn't fit this moment. It doesn't fit this meditation or transmission or whatever. And I realized I'm like, no, I need people that can run with me that aren't afraid of this.
Yeah.
But then, and even deeper than that, I was like, I need to run in a certain way and I need to lead in a certain way that is innate to me, where my people are going to find me.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Because I do believe your team, in a way, is a reflection. Your team will only run as fast as you will. Your team will only innovate as fast as you will.
Mhm.
So when I wasn't here where I am now, and I still have a long ways to go, but when I reflect back on that girl in 2020, like it's such a contrast. And I wish I had invested in team, or not been as afraid to invest more in team, or they say hire slow, fire fast. I wish
Mhm.
I'd fired fast. I
Yeah.
am slow to hire, okay? Like, I stalked my entire team of people over the span of a year to 2 years. And like last year, everyone just came to me organically. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, this is it. This is power. Like, we're power. I also want to say, I don't remember where I was going with this, but we were talking about team and investing. Here's the thing, and this is what I haven't shared. In a way, like 2022 was my last year of having like mentorship. At one
Mhm.
point, you guys, I had three different mentors. I was in two different masterminds. Okay, one of them I met the incredible June, and I'm forever grateful for it, and Amanda, both my best besties. Okay, like amazing stuff. But I never really showed up in that container.
Mhm.
I had another mastermind that I was part of here, local to me. And the reason joined that intentionally was because it's a local community.
Mhm.
That was great while it lasted, but we also had schmovid going on over here. So I couldn't really attend a lot of the in-person events because you had to have the sauce, and I don't have the sauce, and I never will. I have no problem if you have the sauce, whatever. I love you anyway. For my own health reasons, I chose a different path. And so I was attracting a lot of freedom, team freedom. Come this way, come. I'm the safe beacon. Come as you are. Like it was in those years. Those were the years of the pandemic. And so I
Mm,
very quickly learned, I'm like, holy shit, okay, I need to find my people. And so the
mhm.
one mentor I was constantly learning from was Ruthie. Like I think you've worked with her too. I love her. She was my one-on-one mentor for 2 years, 3 years. I started learning from her in 2020 just because her work spoke to me. And then it started from courses to programs to like, I'm like, all right, I'm in. I just want to learn and grow with you. And then I took a break on the investing in mentorship with everything that was happening in 2022. I was like, no, bring it back to your roots. Go back to faith, go back to your Bible, go back to prayer, go back to your body. You have an innate wisdom in you. You are so blessed to be surrounded by people that are your peers, like yourself or June or whoever. And we mentor each other. So, really, I have not had a paid one-on-one mentor in the last year and a bit. I had to just get really quiet. I had to listen to God's voice. I had to just put blinders freaking on. I really did.
Mm, mhm.
I couldn't do it without. And it's
Mm,
been so clear. And I'm like, do I have a couple of mentors that I want to work with on my dream list? I have two that I want to work with one-on-one. And I'm like, I will in time, but right now, that's not of importance to me.
mhm. And I feel like that's such a testament to knowing your seasons in business. Like, I talk about that a lot inside of Nourished Leadership, or just my ethos
Yeah.
around Nourished Leadership, is it's knowing your seasons. And there's gonna be seasons, like, I definitely resonate with that, where I poured more money into team, and then in seasons where I've like, okay, yeah, I maybe need some mentorship, or I don't know, on tech. There's so
Yeah.
like, I always say it's like a nourished leader knows where to allocate her resources, because I think
100%.
that there's sometimes this myth where it's, oh, if you're actually trusting abundance or prosperity, you're going to go all in on all the things. And to an extent, that those teachings can be true, but I think that there's also this consideration of knowing where your resources want to channel to based on where you are in your inner seasons, where your season, like where your business is in a season in, and trusting that and allocating your resources in like in a productive way.
Right.
And I think that's who we're for. Is this agency is for people that are in seasons of wanting to trailblaze, under that know the value of bit of conceptual marketing and systems and everything that we offer. And it's like, when you are, I think it's also, there's to a degree when you're like ready for this, but it's also feeling called, because I know for myself, when pouring that money into team, sometimes it felt like more of a risk, if for whatever odd reason, or sometimes it felt, oh yeah, I'm going all in on execution. And I think that calls people forward, because I think a lot of the times I see leaders just in my own coaching and mentorship space, for my like clients that I mentor, is like a lot of people like to stay stuck in the visioning, and there's a real importance of execution in certain seasons, and it can be risky because it's, I'm going all in on this elevation, and I'm actually having the vision be birthed, rather than just like having it as a seed that I'm, maybe not like allowing to grow, hoarding it. And I think that's it, but without creative risk, as much as there can't be like reward or innovation or trying something new, and those who try something new, I really feel are going to be the ones who flourish. And I think me and you have talked about that a lot. And I also just want to be mindful of time as well. So yeah, that's what
Absolutely. Okay, I want to segue this into what would you say to someone that's I guess they know what they want to express. They know how they want to express. And maybe they want to hire a team, maybe they don't want to hire a team, whatever. But what would you say to someone that's, I feel like that's your zone. So if they're like feeling hesitant with sharing their message because it's like, oh, it could ruffle feathers or whatever, like trailblazing in that way, what is one piece of wisdom you would share with them?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this, when anyone comes to me and feels like they're like having a new edge of their voice be expressed, I always bring people back to the nervous system or how this relates to the body, because a lot of the times this is like body, heart, womb, throat connection. A lot of shame can be stored in this place, right? It can kind of happen as no one cares what I have to say, or on the opposing side, it can like, and this is like hypo or hyper if we were thinking in nervous system senses, or it can come out as I'm just going to share my truth. I don't give any cares in the world if anyone likes it. Both of those are very dysregulated, and you can see it very
Yeah.
clearly in people's content when they're playing into both roles. And I've been on both views, but if we look at it even from the archetype of, yeah, that fully, or what I called like wild expression, there comes this actually calling to rewild ourselves or come back to our wildness, whatever you want to call it, that wild expression, and really looking at the parts of ourselves that maybe that we've shamed or where that we've learned to shame, or where we're holding any like piece. And I think that's what's always, when we're integrating the edge of what we want to execute next or the vision, there's always like that inward reflection on where are we holding shame, where are we in suppression, or where are we maybe in this like other state where it's like, oh, I'm just saying whatever I want without actually a care or refinement. And being honest with ourselves, whether we're either side. And what I always say is like true liberated expression actually has a healthy amount of containment. It's not, oh, I'm just going to say whatever with the world and that's what it's going to be. It's a very both. I've done this, so I'm not
Same.
calling anyone out, but it's a very immature way to create. And also I think to a degree is like creating this inner safety and a deep relationship with your own inner stability and safety in this, because I think one of the biggest fears is this really preys on our like root chakra, right?
Mhm.
Like being kicked out, being canceled, the not belonging piece. So all of those things energetically are really important first and foremost. And this is why with a lot of my clients, we do a lot of somatic work, we do a lot of embodiment work, we do a lot of those shamanic medicine journeys to like also, because it can be ancestral, especially as someone like, if you are a person of color or a woman of color, this actually is going to go so much deeper from you because there's so colonization involved in
Yeah.
this, or actual maybe firsthand experiences or ancestral experiences of when you've shared your voice. So this goes so deeply on the energetic inside, and that's what I like to focus on first. And then, looking at that creative innovation of like really coming back to their channel. I always recommend clients, if they're feeling that overconsumption, like mute, unfollow. Where are you being get really honest about where you're regurgitating information, or maybe even being honest, are you at all copying that coach that you're stalking on Instagram that you compare yourself to, or are you trying to replicate what you learned in your Reiki manual or your somatic teachings? Like there's a degree where all of that is great to an extent, and then there comes a point where it's like, what is your transmission and what is your voice? So getting honest about what you have to say. And I think then something that I liked as a creative practice too is make like a bad piece of art. Like just
Yeah.
to, I think one of the biggest things is people are so afraid of getting it wrong or saying the wrong thing. And a lot of my clients are like, wait, what? You want me to write a bad poem, or you actually want me to? And it's just to build the relationship with artistry and creativity. And then on a strategic level, really, I always like welcoming people and to make a list of maybe some of those edgier things that you're afraid to say. And it's such a good indicator, or like, what are the conversations you're having with clients or behind the scenes with friends that you're not having on your Instagram? Those are the things that are going to move your people into your field. And that's like the small framework of what I like to call the Holy Trinity effect of like that embodiment piece, that shamanic piece, the ancestral piece, like that real embodiment first, creative innovation, looking at our relationship to creativity, just being in our artistry, reclaiming our relationship with being an artist and creative. Excuse me. And then the strategic piece of like, how do we actually bring this into form and into actual execution? I think that allows somewhat of like you to go through the piece around creating safety on all pieces and then maybe dancing with execution.
I love that so much. Okay, one last question.
Yeah.
What does ElixSeer mean to you? One word. It could be one word or one sentence. What does it mean to you personally?
The first thing that popped into mind was like purification, which I'm not sure
Oh, no, I
why.
like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not, yeah, that's the first
So
thing that came
cool.
to mind, like purification.
I like that. I've been asking all our team, what does it mean? I know what it means to me, but that's me. What does it mean to you? That's so cool.
Yeah.
Purification, that's a first. I've never gotten that. That's a first.
Yeah, and
I
I think
love
that's
it.
coming through maybe just the theme of our conversation. I think
Yeah.
like when I think of taking an elixir and when we're thinking of it like through that embodied frequency, it's where it's like clearing and releasing any debris so there can be, yeah, this, I don't know,
Yeah, that
purification
revolution.
of
I
all of
love
us to come online. So yeah, that was the first for me. I was like, oh, I didn't, yeah, that's
That's
coming.
awesome. Okay, where or like how what apart from working with us and working with you through us, what are some ways that people could get into your world, learn from you, courses, programs, share?
Yeah. So I feel like with any like marketing things, Metamorphosis Marketing is my, yeah, flagship kind of signature marketing experience. And there is like an aspect of it where if you want to do it self-paced, you can do it self-paced, and there's a live version, and you can get that information on Instagram. And then if you're wanting more leadership support, Nourished Leadership kind of goes into all things of what does it really mean to approach leadership and success from a holistic view. And I think those are and just Instagram, that's the best place to connect. I'm on an Instagram break right now. However, I
I
will.
know.
That
This is
is
why we're doing it this way.
yeah, that is the best place to connect with me. Or I've been really like digging emails, and I think that's a way. Just yeah, if you're interested in my world, I guess you can. I think starting on Instagram and taking a peek at like maybe where you want to go is the best route.
I love that. Thank you so much for this. And I'm so excited for everything ahead of you. And I'm so grateful to have you on this path with me because it truly, and I feel like we're just getting started. But yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And I'm so grateful that we did this.
I love you so much.